Thank you for taking my question.
Yes.
What is your reaction to the downgraded charge for the suspect arrested in the snowball pelting? And what do you say to police officers who are very upset about that and very upset about the incident?
You know, I will say first and foremost that I believe that our police officers should be treated with respect. They are at the heart of delivering exactly that public safety that I was speaking about earlier. And they've also been at the heart of responding to the city's first blizzard since 2016, because police officers were not just out there continuing to do the jobs that they always do, but they also have a tow truck task force, which is one that was chiefly responsible for digging New Yorkers' cars out of the snow, of digging out ambulances, MTA buses, keeping the city moving in that manner. And for that work and everything that they do, I'm deeply appreciative. And what I've said in regards to the snowball fight is that it's a snowball fight that got out of hand, and I don't really have much more to say to it.
Former New York City Mayor Eric Adams wrote on X, in part, the politicians who constantly bash the police and refuse to have their backs are setting a terrible example. Leadership matters, tone matters. All elected officials must speak out and make it clear that attacks on our officers in any form will not stand.
New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Natish said that she will not tolerate any attacks on her officers, days after several officers were pelted with snowballs. One man was arrested. 3 are still being looked for after Monday's snowball fight in Washington Square Park, which sent 2 officers to the hospital. The incident has put police and the PBA at odds with the mayor, who does not think criminal charges are warranted. The Manhattan DA charged 27-year-old Guzmani Coulibaly with obstructing administration and harassment, but not with assault. And speaking today at a promotion ceremony, the commissioner told her officers that she will always be fiercely protective of them.
Don't allow the loudest voices in the room to erode the pride that you have in wearing the uniform and in protecting this city. I certainly will not tolerate any attacks on my cops, period.
Meanwhile, the mayor this afternoon again referred to the incident as a snowball fight that got out of hand. He then added that he appreciates the work of Commissioner Tisch.
Well. Zohran Mamdani is quadrupling down and standing on business about this snowball incident. Essentially, he's condoning this behavior that will continue amongst his citizens that want to push the envelope when dealing with law enforcement and just take it just far enough to where they can possibly avoid any accountability in the situation. You know, New Yorkers shouldn't be surprised by this. We shouldn't be surprised by this because he interprets criminal activity differently. Here's what I mean by that. When you look at his stance towards ICE and how he's kind of like handled the illegal alien situation and placing restrictions on that relationship with federal law enforcement. And in my humble opinion, it's only a matter of time before New Yorkers go full Gotham City. Like right now, they're in the light Gotham City mode. Now, in this first clip, we find that one of the 4 suspects have been charged. Now, get this, they're 27 years old, obviously an adult, you know, depending on how you want to classify what an adult is nowadays. But yes, this is one of the elements that weakens Mamdani's argument in regards to, hey, it was a bunch of kids just, you know, having a snowball fight, and it just, you know, it got too out of control or it escalated. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this clip.
One suspect has been charged so far. At least 3 others, as you said, are still being sought. The young man was walked out of the 6th Precinct Detective Squad here about 20 minutes ago, identified by NYPD detectives as 27-year-old Guzman Coulibaly, charged with assault on a police officer, disorderly conduct, and obstructing governmental administration. As you said, Dave, these charges are coming over the objections of the mayor, who sought to downplay the incident since it was first reported.
I've said again and again of what I think it was.
Mayor Mamdani has been consistent from the beginning, minimizing the melee in Washington Square Park that left 2 police officers injured and several others covered in snow and ice. No one was arrested, and the mayor clearly believed no one should be.
I've said that what I saw was a snowball fight. It should be treated accordingly. It was one that got out of hand, but that's what it was.
Here's what he said 2 days ago.
I can just tell you from the video I saw, it looked like kids at a snowball fight. Look, I've seen the videos of this snowball fight. I think that it was a snowball fight.
It happened on Monday. Dozens of mostly teenagers and college students hurling snowballs after hearing about it on social media. The officers were confronted after someone called 911.
Started out as a very fun thing to do, and then it just escalated.
NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch ordered an investigation, and at least 4 people were wanted for questioning. But it's put her at odds with her boss in City Hall. Yesterday, the mayor sidestepped those questions.
I've said again and again of my views on this snowball fight, and I'm appreciative of the work that my police commissioner does and the work that we are doing to keep New Yorkers safe across this city.
Today, he has no public schedule, and there's no opportunity to question the mayor any further. By downplaying the incident, former Chief of Detectives Robert Boyce said the mayor is risking his relationship with the NYPD.
I don't think he realizes what he's going to lose if he loses the police department, the morale of the police department.
Brooklyn Council member Lincoln Ressler insisted the mayor's critics are overreacting.
I think it was a snowball fight. Did everyone act perfectly? No. Did folks get carried away? Yes. But it was a snowball fight.
You don't think people...
That's interesting. This council member is like, you know what? It's a snowball fight. That's all it was. You know, they can do that to our police. They can throw stuff at our police. We don't care. We don't mind. It escalated. No charges should be brought against these individuals. Let's take him outside and let's have him go through the situation these law enforcement went through on that day, to where you have nothing but just snowballs just, coming over you, hitting your head, just everything. And we don't know for sure if there wasn't anything embedded in those snowballs, as far as if there was rocks, if there's other objects that was put in there to where it could possibly cause some serious harm to those officers. So, that's just interesting how this individual just has this perspective on it. It seems like he runs with a group that doesn't, want to abolish the police or defund the police, but it's kind of in the middle with that. There's some type of reform there. And depending on what aisle you're on, if you're a Democrat or Republican, reform can mean so many different things. For him to have that perspective is that, hey, look, you can just throw, anything at a police officer. I'm mischaracterizing him there. I'm not saying anything, but it can go down a slippery slope at that point in time whenever you're talking about launching things at police officers and thinking that that's okay. Like, it's okay. They can do this. So, yeah, I don't know. I digress.
Should be charged.
No, I don't.
Again, to recap, a 27-year-old man has now been charged in this case. He is the first of at least 4 that were identified from cell phone video. No comment so far from Mayor Mamdani. Live in the West Village, NJ Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
And you probably won't hear a comment from Mamdani on this. If anything, he's probably, hey, I stand my ground. But I know from his perspective, he has to see how his opinion on the matter, or his even argument as far as like what he witnessed, is deteriorating or crumbling at this point in time, with an adult actually being assessed as one of the suspects that was involved in Snowballgate 2026. But in this next clip here, I will say is that we find out more about the suspect in custody, to where the suspect actually has a prior record, allegedly for attempted robbery. But in this clip too, the suspect's brother gives their perspective on the matter, and they tell you as far as like how they kind of see everything when it comes to snowballs and police being involved with this type of event. And they just give you their intellectual point of view, which is, again, it's all interesting. But am I surprised? Not really. But here we go.
Update now on a much discussed story here in the city. The NYPD says it has arrested a man after the snowball fight in Washington Square Park, where several police officers were pelted. 27-year-old Gusmani Kulabali was arrested this morning, and police say he was arrested in the past for an attempted robbery. News 4's Chris Glorioso covering it today. He's got reaction from that man's brother. Chris.
Well, the suspect was arrested very early this morning, his brother says, sometime after 4:30 in the morning. But at this hour, he still has not been arraigned. We're waiting here at the courthouse to hear the charges. A short time ago, I did speak with the president of the police union that represents NYPD cops. He said he believes the charge should be assault in the second degree. But as you say, I also spoke to this suspect's brother, who says he doesn't believe snowball throwing could even justify the arrest.
But to be honest, snow fight is snow fight. NYPD was not supposed to be there. People was there to have fun.
Asking us not to show his face for fear of retaliation from police. This man said his brother is Guzmani Coulibaly, the suspect accused of throwing snow and ice at police Monday. His brother insisting throwing snowballs was harmless.
They say I heard on the news, which was the police got injured. I didn't see no pictures, no videos, nothing.
You don't think the police were injured?
Nah, they was not injured. How is snow can injure you?
Early Thursday morning.
There you have it. Perfectly articulated. This individual is giving his perspective. I would just say stand on business. Show yourself. Don't hide your face. Don't do that. You know, police were not supposed to be there. What do you mean police were not supposed to be there? They got a complaint call. They arrived, they showed up, and they were going to address it. Also diminishing the possibility that the police were injured. Oh, no, man, snowballs can't hurt nobody. I was like, obviously this individual hasn't experienced a snowball with something stuffed in it that could, if landed, could definitely cause harm to an individual. I guess I give him points for staying loyal to his brother, despite his logic here. But, you know, it is what it is.
Early Thursday morning, doorbell video shows cops approaching Coulibaly's home just before taking the 27-year-old into custody. He is one of 4 people wanted in connection with the snow attack on police. Commissioner Tisch has called the incident disgraceful and criminal. Governor Hochul was asked if criminal charges are appropriate.
Our police officers put themselves in harm's way every single day, and there is no circumstance where it's okay to throw anything at a police officer, so that is appropriate.
She's standing 10 toes down in this. She probably feels some type of way. You know, she just helped out Mamdani, and Mamdani goes and does what he does at the press conference in regards to the deficit, and says that, hey, if Governor Hochul don't raise taxes on the wealth, I'm going to raise taxes on the citizens of New York here, and it has to be done. I'm going to raise property taxes, and I'm going to do some other things as well, too. And for him to calculate that move whenever she's in an election year as well, too, and think that that's going to get her to move, I think he overvalues his influence in this instance, and definitely a misstep on his end. And to think now, not to say that the governor probably wouldn't work for him, because I think she's in a lead within this particular governor race with the Republican candidate that she's going against. But, you know, even in this particular type of situation, I would say is that, you know, it's going to make that relationship strained at this point in time.
We're grateful that our police officers, our detectives, were able to find this individual, arrest them, and now it's up to the district attorney. We're hoping that this case is prosecuted. I said from the beginning when I spoke to the police officers after they were assaulted, they told me that the individuals, the vast majority in that park, were adults, and it proved to be true, as we know that this individual is 27 years old.
The police union says officers were injured, including having ice thrown at their face and eyes. Mayor Mamdani has so far said that he believes this case involves a snowball fight that went the wrong way, but he has not suggested that he has seen anything criminal in the videos. And now the case is in the hands of Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. He will ultimately be the one that decides what charges are brought here. We reached out to his office, still no comment from them. For now, reporting live at Manhattan Criminal Court, Chris Glorioso, News 4 New York.
Yeah, he probably not going to comment on this. We'll see. But anyways, though, so in this last clip, we have the attorney and the suspect, and they're, at a press conference as he exits the courtroom. And we find out more at that point in time that the DA's office of Alvin Bragg has downgraded this felony to a misdemeanor, for obstructing governmental administration and harassment. Now, obviously, this shouldn't be a surprise to other individuals that know District Attorney Alvin Bragg's, I would say, track record when it comes to cases with felonies. Just an interesting stat, though. It says that ever since he's been in office, he's downgraded approximately 52% of felony charges to misdemeanors, which is amazing to me. Now, obviously, I'm taking that hard number, and there may be variables that kind of go into that, but for NYPD to be hopeful, I guess based upon the footage that was shown and how the officers were treated, they and whatever information they had, they thought that this would be a case to where they could give him the max punishment, I would say, or the max sentencing and classify under a felony. But in this case, doesn't seem to be that was going to work out for them. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this.
Did you put rocks in the snow?
We can answer some questions.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Get back.
I will answer some questions.
Okay, no problem. Some very serious claims being made right now, including them saying that he put rocks in the snow before throwing them at officers.
This is the first I'm hearing of rocks in the snow. I don't know where you got that from. There's nothing in the criminal complaint that says that.
You mentioned in court that you felt this was politicized. How's it been politicized?
I think it's obvious to most New Yorkers. I think the police have an issue with the mayor of our city. And I think they're taking it out on Mr. Coulibaly. They want to pick a fight with the mayor. I don't think this is the way they should be doing it. From what I've seen, there are not many things that the mayor and I agree on. I'm not the biggest fan. However, I did see the videos, and my client, according to them, I haven't seen a specific indication that my client was throwing a snowball. But going based upon what they said, that they have an indication that he actually threw a snowball, that's all it was. There's no information that there were rocks, that these were ice snowballs. The police went so far as to charge him with a C violent felony. Okay?
Does that raise a due process issue in your?
So I want to bring this up real quick. By the way, the suspect here, nice Maduro fit. He got that Nike jacket that Maduro had on, but in green. But anyways, no, I agree to a certain extent in what he's saying here, because I'm gonna objectively look at the situation now that we're getting to the nuance as far as what the accusations are in this particular situation. If the police do not have actual evidence showing the suspect here actually, throwing the snowball, and that snowball actually hitting an officer and causing, the serious injuries that they're saying that it has done. As much for me, I hate to say that, but it is going to be hard for them to prove that. Unless they have some other footage that we don't know about or anything, that is something that's going to be hard to prove, because you saw the crowd. The crowd is just rambunctious. It's everywhere. Snowballs are flying, everywhere, essentially, coming from different directions at times. And in some of those situations, you see the officers, they have their backs faced to the actual crowd itself. So, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to be able to prove that. We'll definitely see. But I digress.
That other people are getting similar charges?
Well, I don't think that's a due process issue. I think it's selective prosecution. I don't know how they decided on Mr. Coulibaly. Frankly, we're not there yet. All I can go by is what I heard in the courtroom and what I had in this criminal complaint. And thankfully, the DA Bragg and his assistant who's handling the case was able to see through the politicization of this and reduced it to obstructing governmental administration.
You said you saw the videos, and they're claiming that in the videos it shows that they have ice.
I have not seen that. I've seen the video that most people see on TV. The DA's office has not provided video to me yet.
You mentioned in court that you don't see how your client could have obstructed government administration because you didn't know what the administration was. What about the harassment? Was your client harassing cops?
Well, I don't know if it's harassing. What I did say in court is, at worst, this could be a summonsable offense, which is harassment, disorderly conduct. That is a possibility. But again, I have not seen the proof. That's going to come with the discovery phase of the case. So I don't know what specific proof they have that my client did anything.
How do you categorize
this case? And you said your client's a content creator. Is this sort of a product of that?
No, this has absolutely nothing to do with that. And because it's an open case, I can't really discuss that.
How do you categorize the word attack being used? What do you say to how that language is being used in this?
Attack? I mean, we've all seen it, and we've all seen attacks. We're all New Yorkers. It didn't look like an attack to me. What I saw in the video didn't look like an attack. Did it go a little past jokes and fun? Was it possibly a little disrespectful to the police? Yes. But to charge a 22-year-old who has no criminal record with a C violent felony, I think that says a lot. To me, that says a lot.
But you said it was lessened, correct?
It was lessened because of the district attorney's office. But the police charge a C violent felony. And that C violent felony requires proof of a serious physical injury. There's two levels of injury: physical injury and serious physical injury. The people didn't even charge assault in the third degree, which is a step lower than what the police wanted, which indicates that the injury was fairly minor. And again, I don't want to minimize what happened to the officers, but I think the police department is using this because of their dislike, disdain for the mayor.
What can you tell?
All right, in this next clip, you're going to have the NYPD kind of give their, I guess, perspective in regards to how they feel about the downgrade of the felony charge to a misdemeanor. And then also, too, they're going to talk about a little bit more details as far as what the officers experienced and the injuries. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this clip.
Questions?
What's been your communication with the
mayor? I'm sorry?
What's been your communication with Mamdani?
No communication.
They just...
I'm sorry?
Has anyone initiated?
No, there has been no communication, none initiated on his end or my end.
He's standing on business. He's like, yeah, no. We ain't talking to him. Nope. He ain't talking to us either. So I guess we're just going to be here, not talking to each other.
They described the injury as redness to the eye and a little pain to the neck. I mean, it didn't sound as serious in the courtroom. Can you describe to us what that injury is really like?
So our police officers, this particular police officer, has basically a welt below his eye. He's had headaches, dizziness, unsteady on his feet. That's real injuries. So this shouldn't be downplayed. They were hit with rocks, packed in that ice. They saw it. They saw the individuals doing that, and then following them and tormented them as they were going to the van. They were surrounded by hundreds of people. So the notion that this was a playful, that they were just there for a snowball fight is not true at all.
Is Officer Johnson still? Is Officer Johnson still on duty?
Officer Johnson is out sick right now, and he's on the mend, but he's injured, and he's dealing with those injuries right now as we speak.
What can you tell us about Officer Johnson?
I'm sorry, I don't know who said what. I'll let her, please.
What can you tell us about Officer Johnson? How long has he been on the force? How old is he? Is he the only one that's out from these injuries?
No, there's two officers out right now. Another police officer. He's a young police officer on the department, hardworking, good cop, and he's right now he's on the mend. And but again, they explained it as that this was an attack on them, that these individuals came at them and they were packing this ice and they threw it at intentionally because of the uniform.
Can you describe the other injury from the other officer, the younger one?
He has injuries to his head, to his back, to his nose, pain, substantial pain, and he's recovering. Same thing. He has some dizziness, staying on his feet, headaches.
All right, last one. And how do you know these still have rocks in it? Is that clear from the video?
Basically, from the information that we gathered, that's what they were doing. They were packing it. The ice with putting rocks in there, and that's what we believe at this point.
Addressing the social media aspect of this, the defense attorney said that this particular defendant was often on social media. Do you feel like there are problems with the way social media is interacting with young people? And I know he's 27, but how young people are interacting with social media to get views?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is here, they surrounded our police officers, why they all went there, but they surrounded our police officers and they were targeted because they were wearing the uniform, and they went after our police officers. This was a blatant attack on our police officers.
Okay, thank you.
I think that as this case and investigation moves forward, we'll probably see more footage from the NYPD in regards to, how they, found these suspects and linked them, to the assault of these officers? I think that's going to be a big question, especially if I'm looking at this objectively, because it's going to be kind of hard to be able to prove that. And I'm trying to avoid, having these preconceived notions about the situation based upon whatever political affiliations going on here, and really look at the nuances within this particular case as the conversation just moves forward. I think overall, I still feel is that throwing a snowball at a police officer, not a good thing. You shouldn't do that because of the unseen variables that can be stuffed into a snowball and how it could cause harm to an individual. That's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Therefore, you should not be throwing any type of snowballs at police officers. And it's setting a precedent in this case in regards to how individuals will begin to, navigate, their interactions with, law enforcement. Anyways, though, get at me in the comments. And please remember to be safe out there. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to An Unaffiliated Mind. Until the next time, deuces. Yes, sir.